Well, this is what we have in store tomorrow evening on BBC One.
At a press conference, Tessa's father described the moment he found her.
I know I grabbed hold of her and I screamed. I can't go into details of this. I wouldn't want to share that picture with you because you will have it and other people will have it.
What would you say to anybody who might know something about what happened that night?
Well, you say anybody that might know. Somebody does know. Somewhere, as I said to other people, there's a mum or a girlfriend or somebody that knows this creature that's masquerading as a human being. Somebody's got a little doubt about somebody, about, as I said, wet plimsolls or an anorak that's missing, or somebody that's acting strangely or overexcited or extra quiet. Somebody's got a suspicion or a feeling that they're trying to suppress, as if it could be a nightmare. I've had a nightmare, and I'm finding it difficult to stay awake.
Police are still checking Tessa's home and the woods behind. They think the man knows the area well. Joan Thurkettle, News at 10, Croydon.
The government's economic ministers were pleased with the figures on prices today. December's figures on industry's price rises were down to 5%, a fall of 1.1% compared with a year ago, and the lowest since 1968. Fuel and raw material prices were down 6.1% in the year, which may be unprecedented. The government's hope is that price rises in the shops will fall to 3.5% this year, down 2% from today. The national newspapers in Fleet Street appear to face their first fight in a hard year. The executive SOGAT 82, the paper workers, expect to vote for a strike to stop Mr. Rupert Murdoch's new plans. A report next. And later, the nude trombones led the big parade and the nude cornets marched behind. That's starting in a couple of minutes.
We had come to Singapore to investigate some of the mysteries of the East, and were intrigued to discover an exotic port, offering unusual local delicacies, strange creatures to frighten off evil spirits, and offerings to bestow good fortune upon us. The local bazaars revealed numerous Oriental treasures, and we saw some natives engaged in fierce combat. Next, we soon found ourselves in Borneo, where even there the people do not always welcome the traveling salesman. Finally, tea was announced, and it was time to return to the comfort and luxury of Singapore to reflect upon our many adventures.
This is the outside of a Rolls-Royce Corniche, which is bigger than the outside of the new Mazda 323. But this is the inside of the 323, which is bigger than the inside of the Rolls-Royce. Yet the Mazda 323 range costs less than the Volkswagen Golf range.
That's amazing!
No, that's a Mazda. The new 323 family hatchback. You'll be amazed at a Mazda.
It's creamy and golden,
And really a classic.
it's smooth and smashing,
Tasty and great.
and drawn and handsome.
Cheers, mate.
It's Car Express, that's what I like.
A lady from Manchester received quite a shock last year, just 3 days short of her 52nd birthday. She'd been suffering from osteoarthritis for some time and was told she'd have to undergo a hip replacement operation. Many thousands of these operations are carried out every year, which means many thousands of people can walk easily again.
We'll use 2 sticks now.
A remarkable 1 in 4 of the operations are done privately. Most people obtain their private medical care through Bupa.
Nearly there. Oh, well done.
Bupa. Britain feels better for it.
You'd better try a new Beecham's hot lemon cold remedy.
But I don't like to.
Try it.
A great lemon taste with Beecham's power behind it.
It's good.
two main print unions, SOGAT and the National Graphical Association, have begun a series of mass meetings and ballots and are threatening the bloodiest battle Fleet Street's seen for years. The trouble is over Mr. Rupert Murdoch's plan to produce his papers, which include the Sun and the Times, at a new plant in London's Docklands, without union agreement.
The infrared cameras, the high steel fences and the masses of barbed wire which surround Rupert Murdoch's huge new printing plant at Wapping in East London are designed to keep out any pickets who might be tempted to try to disrupt production here. The plant, which cost £80 million, was completed last spring, but it has yet to produce a single paper. Mr. Murdoch's idea is to transfer some or all of the printing of papers like the Sun away from the Fleet Street area to modern premises, leaving behind old-fashioned ways of producing newspapers. The print unions want their members to move too, but Mr. Murdoch has laid down tough conditions, including a no-strike deal and a ban on closed shops, previously unheard of in Fleet Street.
There isn't any shadow of a doubt, if we accept those kind of agreements, you can kiss goodbye effective trade unionism, and working people in this country can kiss goodbye the ability to defend their employment, their wages and their conditions.
Mr. Murdoch told the unions last autumn he'd set a deadline of Christmas to reach agreement. The deadline passed, so he's going ahead anyway, angering them by beginning production at the new plant without their cooperation. His News International company is planning to print part of next weekend's Sunday Times at Wapping.
For many years we've been subjected to blackmail, not only this company but other companies in the Fleet Street area. We've felt that with a brand new plant it was necessary to have conditions that were parallel to other countries in the world. So
at present, Wapping's manned largely by non-union labour recruited outside London doing test work. Questions aren't encouraged.
Could you tell me what sort of job you're going to be doing in there?
Very little, I hope.
The main print unions fear Mr. Murdoch will go on doing that or sign a one-union deal with the electricians' union. The electricians argue that new technology now in use makes it logical for modern print employees to be represented by them, to the fury of other union leaders who call that industrial piracy. This afternoon, members of the two biggest print unions began a series of meetings which their leaders, calling this the biggest confrontation in Fleet Street in 40 years, are confident will result in votes for strike action. The management, on the other hand, declare that Wapping won't be stopped and that the group's 4 newspapers will be produced whether there are strikes or not. Nicholas Owen, News at 10, East London.
In Cairo, an investigation is underway into why at least 4 apartment blocks collapsed, killing at least 10 people. People used their bare hands to try to find residents who'd been buried alive. Rescue workers reported hearing people calling from beneath the debris. It's thought that more than 100 people lived in the buildings, which were about 100 years old and up to 7 floors high. 2 of the buildings were empty after being condemned. Winnie Mandela, the wife of South Africa's jailed black nationalist leader Nelson Mandela, today lost a Supreme Court battle to overturn a government order banning her from her home in Soweto. Mrs. Mandela did not attend the hearing, but afterwards her lawyer spoke for her.
Dad, were you disappointed, or did you expect it to go that way?
No, I was disappointed.
You were?
Yeah, we wouldn't have made the application otherwise.
Mrs. Mandela has already been arrested twice for defying the ban. South African police said that 3 people died at Stutterheim in Eastern Cape Province after a black policeman opened fire when a crowd of 1,000 blacks charged his home, hurling petrol bombs.
Here, the 2 stars of ITV's Minder series, Arthur Daly and Terry McCann, have a new job on their hands, and this one's legit. They're taking a hard line on drugs as part of the government's new campaign warning youngsters about the dangers of drug abuse.
To the nation's television addicts, the faces of Arthur Daly and his minder Terry McCann belong more to the shadier side of the street, and that's just why the government has chosen them to lead its new drive against drug abuse. With an extra £2 million being pumped into its campaign, officials believe that youngsters tempted by the strange allure of drugs may just take Terry and Arthur a little more seriously than their parents or teachers.
Terry, you know you said you'd never taken drugs.
Yeah? But what is it with you? You working for the drug squad or something?
No, but weren't you ever offered them?
Oh, yeah, I was offered, yeah. Just always said no. I don't need them.
Aren't you curious, though, you know, just to try and see what they're like?
Look, I'm no doctor, but I do know that drugs can get to you in the end.
Watching the video today, the Social Services Secretary believes that despite some doubts, it's still the best way forward.
What the research shows is that the advertising that we've done already, television and press, has in fact strengthened people's feelings against taking hard drugs. So there's no question of this kind of advertising glamorising drugs.
Next month, the government publishes the details of a survey showing just what effect this new campaign is having on child drug abuse. Only then will they know just how successful their video has been. Kim Sabido, News at 10, Central London.
Next, how Britain can't afford science research or ants with microchips. And if he's on time, we'll extend the news for the Trade and Industry Secretary, Mr. Britton, with more to tell the Commons. That's in a couple of minutes.
Now is the time to capture the allure of Harrod's sail. This man is perfectly fit, yet every 2 years he chooses to pay to undergo 2.5 hours of 40 separate medical tests. He's one of the ever-growing number of men and women who are now aware of the benefits of this form of preventive medicine, which can detect many illnesses long before outward symptoms become apparent, allowing early treatment to begin. In Britain, this approach to preventive medicine has been pioneered by Bupa. Most people obtain their private medical care through Bupa. Bupa. Britain feels better for it.
All right.
It's a teapot. Armadillo.
Gentlemen, will you please concentrate? We have all night until you are correct.
A pint of Guinness.
Correct.
Pure genius, John.
It's the strong, dark body and the deep, inspiring taste that makes Guinness.
Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
Armadillo.
Pure genius.
The Fiat Uno. So successful, it now comes with a free 3-year warranty and a special service offer.
Why's that pink duck only got one leg?
Little variety to shepherd's pie. Try it Schwartz. To your mince, add a light shake of Schwartz mixed herbs. A unique blend of marjoram, oregano, basil and thyme. Then, instead of mashed potato, cooked potato slices with grated cheese and another sprinkle of Schwartz mixed herbs. And, after 45 minutes in a moderate oven, shepherd's hot pot. Delicious. Try it on the family. They'll agree. It's not shepherd's delight if it hasn't been Schwartzed.
Well, we expect to go to the House of Commons shortly for Mr. Britton's statement after the vote. They're still voting there. I think there's still a chance to start the next report.
Leading scientists, including 8 Nobel Prize winners, have launched a campaign called Save British Science. They say scientific research in this country is chaotic and Britain's economic future is at stake. We've just heard that, in fact, there has been a vote at the Commons. We're now going straight over to the Commons.
Impression.
Order.
This afternoon, in making my statement to the House, I was asked whether the government had received a letter from British Aerospace concerning the meeting which took place between Sir Raymond Ligo and myself on 8th January. I replied that I had not done so. In answer to further questions whether any member of the government had received a letter from Sir Raymond Ligo, I replied that I was not aware of any letter from Sir Raymond Ligo to anyone else either. There has since been an announcement by 10 Downing Street that a letter was received there which the Prime Minister saw just before coming over to the House. It was not from Sir Raymond Ligo, but
Order.
Chairman of British Aerospace, and was, I understand, marked private and strictly confidential. Although I was myself made aware of the existence of this letter minutes before I left for the House, I had not been informed of its contents, nor did I know whether Sir Austin Pearce was prepared for its existence to be made public. In view of the fact that, as I have said, the letter was marked private and strictly confidential, it was essential that I took great care in what I said to protect the strict confidentiality attached to it by Sir Austin Pearce while answering questions accurately. I understand.
Order!
Understand that since I made my statement, Sir Austin has agreed with the Prime Minister's office that the existence of his letter can be disclosed, although not its contents. I had no intention of misleading the House in this matter, and therefore wish to come and explain the sequence of events immediately. If it is thought that I have in any way misled the House, I apologize unreservedly.
Can I say to the Secretary of State, if he had made an unreserved and unqualified apology, we would have been happy to accept it. Can I remind the Secretary of State of the sequence of events? The Right Honourable Gentleman for Henley asked about a letter. The reply which the Right Honourable Gentleman gave was, I haven't received any such letter. That's quite true. There were questions from other members, and then at one point my honourable friend, the member for Bolsover, to my recollection, asked about a letter from the chairman of British Aerospace, who happens to be Sir Austin Pearce. The honourable gentleman's question finished with the words, the Secretary of State should come clean. The verbatim reply which the Secretary of State gave was, if it helps the honourable gentleman, I'm not aware of any letter from Sir Raymond Ligo to anyone else either. Now, in case the Secretary of State seeks to draw a distinction between a letter from Sir Raymond Ligo and a letter from Sir Austin Pearce, let me remind them that later in the exchanges, my honourable friend, the member for Newcastle North, said, is the Secretary of State aware of any letter received by Her Majesty's government from British Aerospace? The matter could hardly be more clearly put. The reply which the Secretary of State gave was, as to the first part of the question by the honourable gentleman, I have already answered it in the reply to the honourable gentleman for Bolsover. Any reasonable person, Mr. Speaker, would have accepted from that reply, sequence of replies, that the Secretary of State did not know of any letter having arrived to the government. He has told us today that he did know that such a letter had been received by the government, by the Prime Minister. And I think what the Secretary of State should now do is to say, well, we'll see how things develop, but what he should do now is to say, I am unreservedly sorry for having misled the House of Commons to the extent that I implied that a letter had not been received when a letter had been received.
When I knew a letter had been received.
Secondly, on the question of confidentiality, I can say to the Secretary of State that I can appreciate that there might be a problem about a letter which is marked private and confidential. Can I say to them what he should have done was to say precisely that to the House, that a letter had been received, which had been given on confidential basis, and he could not take the matter further because of questions of commercial or other forms of confidentiality. That would have been the merit of being a truthful answer to the House of Commons.
Once the truth cuts
reiterate.
to do with this affair?
But can I say also this, Mr. Speaker? That throughout the whole of that performance this afternoon, the Prime Minister sat beside... And she had more knowledge than any other member of the House of Commons because she was the recipient of that letter. And no doubt she read it before she came across to the House of Commons. In that circumstance, why did the Prime Minister not even lean across to the Secretary of State, who was within inches of her throughout the whole of the debate, and correct him if he was at some stage ineffectively reading the House? And I do ask, Mr. Speaker, that either tonight or tomorrow, the Prime Minister comes to this House and apologises in more handsome terms to the Secretary of State. Can I say finally, Mr. Speaker, that the House of Commons will not be satisfied that we know the whole truth of this rather confused matter until the terms of that letter are published, so that they can be compared with the account of the meeting given by the Secretary of State this afternoon.
Order. At the outset of what I had to say, and at its conclusion, I made it quite clear that if the opinion of the House was that my answers were misleading, I apologize unreservedly. I would have thought that the Right Honourable Gentleman could at least give me the credit for that. Well, but as it happens, I do not order. I do not think that the answers that I gave bear the interpretation that he's put upon them, but I am content, as I have said, to say that if he thinks that they bore that impression, I'm content to apologise and to withdraw.
The exchange in the Commons just now, Mr. Britton has apologised unreservedly, but the pressure is now on the Prime Minister. She answers questions in the Commons tomorrow afternoon.
Returning now to that story about the leading scientists who've launched a campaign called Save British Science. They say scientific research here is chaotic and our economic future is at stake, and they want the government to provide another £100 million for research projects.
Research projects at the Materials Science Department of Liverpool University range from devising lead-free weights for anglers to developing a successor to the silicon chip. But these projects are being held back because of outdated machinery and lack of money. This microscope alone costs £40,000. It has the power to magnify an ant holding a silicon chip. But recently it was out of action for a month because of a faulty power cable. An American university would have about 12 such machines, none as old as this one. The annual budget for the Materials Science Department of Illinois University is £12 million. That's 3 times more than the total budget for all materials science departments at all of Britain's universities and polytechnics. Now, in an unprecedented campaign, British scientists are demanding more government investment.
It's important for the future of Britain because new materials, which are formed by research and development, are the basis of new technology, which is the basis of new industry, which is the basis of jobs and employment and prosperity. And unless we invest in science for the future, then the British economy will decline and will become a third world country.
Of the professor's research group of 8 graduates, 7 went to work abroad. This 24-year-old lecturer has been offered a job in New Jersey paying £24,000. Here, he earns less than £8,000. Anne Lucas, News at 10, Liverpool University.
Soccer, Ipswich beat Bradford City 1-0 tonight in the FA Cup third-round replay at Leeds. The only goal came in extra time.
Bradford City are a team without a ground after last year's disastrous fire. But tonight, they look quite at home on Elland Road's wide-open spaces. In fact, 10,000 loyal City fans had made the short trip to Leeds. But after half an hour, it was Ipswich who finally revealed themselves as the First Division side. Sadly, Glenhorn's finishing wasn't in the same class. At the other end, Bradford had given up trying to emulate the opposition, and suddenly it was real cup-tie stuff. Arthur Graham at first failing to chip high enough. Then City's best effort, Butcher's amateurish clearance, setting up a 1-2 for Abbott to fail by an inch. The second half was a forgettable war of attrition. Then, in a tense half hour of extra time, Ipswich's Brennan finally slipped past a tired marker to slide in the winner. Peter Staunton, ITN Sport, Elland Road.
Also in the third round replays, Villa 3, Portsmouth 2, Blackburn 3, Nottingham Forest 2, Derby 3, Gillingham 1, Reading 2, Huddersfield 1. Other third round matches, Bury 2, Barnsley 0, Carlisle 1, QPR 0, Middlesbrough 1, Southampton 3, Sheffield United 2, Fulham 0, Wednesday 2, West Brom 2, Stoke 0, Notts County 2, Scottish Cup second round replay, Meadowbank Thistle 1, Nairn and the Highland League 2. And that's it tonight. More about Westland, especially from the Prime Minister, tomorrow. Good night.
And following that extended edition of News at 10, we have the Thames News Headlines in a moment, followed by the movie premiere, Tatum O'Neill and Christy McNichol in Little Darlings.
Highlights for Tuesday night on Thames. At 7, Emmerdale Farm and a fearsome discovery.
Oh, no. Start thinking what we're going to tell Harry Mole.
At 7:30, Busman's Holiday. San Francisco opened its gates to last week's winners, 3 dentists from Cumbria. At 8, a new series of Magnum, a private eye who's no stranger to danger.
Ray's in jail.
Ray was killed by a sniper at the gun club this morning.
At 9, a new drama series, Boone, anything legal considered.
Who's been a naughty boy then? Not paid his bills?
What? What's going on?
I did warn you. Okay.
Jake, you touch my van, you'll get a thick ear, son.
Michael Elphick is Boone at 9. The new Tuesday night lineup on Thames.
To add a little variety to shepherd's pie, try it Schwartz. To your mince, add a light shake of Schwartz mixed herbs. A unique blend of marjoram, oregano, basil and thyme. Then, instead of mashed potato, cooked potato slices with grated cheese and another sprinkle of Schwartz mixed herbs. And, after 45 minutes in a moderate oven, shepherd's hot pot. Delicious. Try it on the family. They'll agree. It's not shepherd's delight if it hasn't been Schwartzed.
Over 100,000 London commuters switched on to Capital Card last year and stayed switched on for their bus, train and underground travel to town. Many switched over to big savings on their journeys to work, and they all got their extra journeys absolutely free. Now, more than ever, shouldn't you switch over to the extra value of Capital Card? Phone 01200 0200 for details.
Pick up a chat this week and read part 1 of our world-exclusive first interview with Myra Hindley. Discover the truth about drug traces in the water supply. Win a timeshare holiday for life. And find out where British lovers go when they're bored with The Bedroom. Chat, the great new weekly paper for women. Get it today.
Here's a new way of making the best a touch better with one of the Colmans you won't have met before. New mix for liver casserole. Like sausage casserole, another new recipe from Colman's. It makes a change from grilled liver and turns an everyday dish into something a bit special. Trust Colman's. They've been making good food taste better for 170 years. Colman's make the best a touch better.
There's a revolutionary sweetener that tastes as good as sugar. New Canderel Spoonful. It has no saccharin and no bitter aftertaste, just like sugar. And because it's granular, you sprinkle it in just the same quantity as sugar. New Canderel Spoonful, the revolutionary sweetener that tastes as good as sugar.
Can you draw a face and get the features in proportion to each other? Or a tree and get the rest of the landscape into perspective? This viewing grid will help, and it's free with part 1 of Drawing Course. Week by week, with practical advice from professional artists, Drawing Course will help you to improve your sketching by learning the secrets of the world famous. Drawing Course starts this week. Make sure you get part 1 and start learning how to draw like a professional.
Why throw away all these dead batteries? The Memorex Pro Series rechargeable system is in shops now. The difference is shattering. The difference is Memorex.
Good evening. The Thames News Headlines. The father of the murdered 19-year-old woman from Selsdon tonight appealed for help in tracking her killer. Tessa Howden was sexually assaulted and strangled in the family's home while her parents were asleep next door. Her father found her the next morning. The killer took a back door key, similar to this, and left behind a pair of sunglasses. The murdered woman worked on promotions for the Croydon Advertiser. It's thought the killer saw her picture and homed in on her. Several girls have had obscene calls after their picture appeared in the paper. There's growing controversy tonight following the official police report into the Tottenham riots. The report says the violence was planned in advance and involved paramilitary-style tactics, which included stockpiling weapons and laying traps for police. Haringey's leader, Bernie Grant, says the report is a lie, but he's come under fire from the council's opposition. They want to know whether or not the council knew the riot was being planned, and if so, what they were doing about it. A homeless and jobless Nigerian who stabbed to death an American businessman at random out of jealousy and resentment was jailed for life today. Jubril Adejumo, who's 25, denied the murder in March last year. The Old Bailey heard that American banker John Sterling died because he looked rich and successful. He was staying at Brown's Hotel in Mayfair and had gone out for a walk. 200 yards from the hotel, Adejumo approached him and stabbed him twice. An 11th-hour agreement has been reached to give the London Docklands Development Corporation the power to redevelop most of the Royal Docks, the last large part of the area still to be revitalised. The multi-million-pound deal with the Port of London Authority comes on the eve of a major public inquiry which was to decide if the Development Corporation could force PLA chiefs to sell the site. But part of the docks is privately owned. Owners say they'll fight all the way to stop it being purchased compulsorily. Detectives investigating the weekend murder of a fairground worker from Berkshire will be interviewing showmen from all over the country when their annual fair opens at Olympia tomorrow. Charlie Pelham died from a bullet wound to the heart when he was gunned down by two men at his mobile home in Hurst. Police think it may have been a bungled kidnap attempt. Brent social workers have rejected a package of proposals designed to end their boycott of child abuse cases. Brent Council made recommendations last week which included taking on more social workers and improvements in training. The unions say it's not good enough and won't end child abuse. 32 Lambeth councillors appear in the High Court tomorrow accused of willful misconduct in delaying setting a rate last year. If they lose their appeal, they could face personal bankruptcy and disqualification from office. Tonight, their supporters will keep up a vigil outside the court until their appearance in the morning. And now, Thames weather. Overnight, dry but becoming windy. Tomorrow, the chance of a shower, but mostly dry and bright and very windy. The high 6 degrees Celsius, 43 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's it. More Thames News tomorrow. Now, Little Darlings.
Hey, Angel baby. Hey, where you going, huh? Huh? Come on, don't walk away. Come on, be nice to me. Slide me something nice.
Here she comes riding, rolling it down the line. Slipping and sliding, taking a sweet old time.
You know I don't like these smokings.
Knowing in the back of her mind, she's gonna show the boy what she's really got. And stop it in the nick of time. Shake it, baby. Shake it all you can tonight. Go on, break it, baby.
Sharp outfit.